Books that are being banned. I want to give you just
no books are being banned.
No, hold on a second.
Well, no, Joy, but I want to be clear. No one's banning books. We're talking about a public school library. Children don't have unfettered access to the internet at school. And the subject matter in the books that moms are concerned about are the same things that kids don't have access to on the internet. So it just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
What is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates?
I don't want you to miss the argument that Liberty Mom co-founder just made here. You're saying it's okay for us to bring books in these schools that have sexually explicit content in them, book with the P word, P-O, right? P-O-R-N. Is it okay to have that available to children? And she's arguing, Joy Reid is arguing, yes, it's okay. Liberty Mom is saying, what about the internet? Don't we have a way of keeping children away from the same contents? So the only difference here is the venue. The only difference here is the platform. So it's okay to have the sexual deviance perversion in the books, but it's not okay to have it on an internet before the kids. It's almost like, are we talking about the same thing here? Because her argument is it should be okay for children to read these books. And the contradiction to that is, what about the internet and everything that's there, and we keep children away from it? So if it's children okay to read those books, well, children should be able to watch whatever they want on the screen. They should be able to view and do everything else that they want. And it's a fair argument. Listen to this.
Don't have unfettered access to the internet at school. And the subject matter in the books that moms are concerned about are the same things that kids don't have access to on the internet. So
exactly. Is the subject matter that we're talking about. This is not an attack on LGBT trans. This is not even, it's not even that. That's beyond the subject. This is talking about the kind of stuff that's in the books themselves that the children are being exposed to.
So it just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
What is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to
listen to the stupidity of that question. And she laughs because she knows the question is so dumb. Listen to the question.
The expertise.
No one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools.
What is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read?
Do you need to be an expert to decide whether a book is decent for children to read? Guys, do I need a degree? Do I need to be an expert in deciding decency, common sense, good and evil? Like, do I need an expert? Do I need a degree? Like, that's why she smiled, because Liberty Mom had to smile because she realized the level of stupidity and unthoughtfulness that is in the question is ridiculous. Listen to this.
That you have and other moms.
It just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
What is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for
do.
you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
Okay, I love this because what she's doing here, she's destroying Joy's argument in the most humble, nice, and simple way. Joy, do you need a context? What context do you need? Do you need, because her argument, Joy's argument, and this is not even an interview, this is a debate, obviously. I don't know why you're bringing people to your show and you can't show them respect. If you're going to bring them to your show to speak about what they believe, at least be decent enough and have some kind of respect for your guests. You don't have to agree with what they're saying. Your job is not to fight against them. Your job is to respect and understand what they have to say. Then you can challenge them. She's not even allowing the lady to speak for the most part when you watch the interview. But when the lady brings some good points and asks some proper questions, she ignores them. This is like, I don't know what you call this. This is a waste of time when you're watching these people on the interviews doing some of the stuff. But anyway, watch what's going on here because it gets better.
The strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by the pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so
Sure.
I'm going to answer
Please
for you.
do.
Tell me what the context around.
Do you need a context, Joy? Do you need a context to allow children to be exposed to sexual deviant kind of contents in literature? Do you need a context? Do you need a context for Playboy type of magazine, book types of reading? Is there a need for a context to allow children to read stuff like this? Friends, this is what I'm talking about. And I know I'm saying a lot. This shows us something is wrong with our country, with our mindset. And the far left, they've completely gone to the extreme. Like, you need context? What context do you need to know certain books should not be exposed before the eyes of children with impressionable minds? Do you need a context for that? This is ridiculous. Lord have mercy.
The strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No,
Wait,
we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
I'm going to answer
Yeah, she asked you a question and you're not going to answer.
it. You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert. So who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking.
That's beside the point. I don't know why they do this. And this is an issue I have with some of these people that are doing interviews. We're talking about a subject matter. We're talking about content. We don't want to get into the details. So what she's trying to do here, she's trying to bring Liberty Moms co-founder here into the detail minutia of the discussion. And what that does, she's trying to confuse her, because once you say, I don't know this part of the question, or I don't know what this is about, automatically you can refute the argument. No, the argument was, look at the overarching theme of what we're discussing here. We're talking about books being exposed before the eyes of impressionable minds, children, innocent ones, way before it is too early for them. You're exposing them to sexuality way too early. Instead, what she's doing is, let's leave the major subject alone. Let's get caught up in the details. Let's find out if you know this thing. Do you know that thing? Do you know what? That's not important, though. I don't need to read a book. I don't need to watch a movie fully. If he says rated R, PG-13, I'm not going to let my sons and my daughters watch it. I don't need to watch the thing and know what the story is about before I can decide if it's good for my children. It's already rated R. So, I mean, I'm telling you guys, these are things I've been holding on to get to. I've been waiting to get back so I can talk about this, because I'm like, my Lord, my goodness, what is wrong with these people?
Asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't.
specific names.
Joy.
Here's
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer. Your
Great.
question.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you, and you're not interviewing me. So let's.
Oh, Joy, give me a break. You're not even answering a common question. I'm interviewing you, not interviewing me. She's flexing her muscles. That's not the point. You're being dishonest.
I'm going to answer.
Great. I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you, and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation. Okay.
Great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert,
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
Why is it your right, or a Moms for Liberty activist's right, to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, then why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your...
First of all, exposing children to sexual deviancy, that's a choice. It's not so much a right. Because I know people, like, we need to stop using the word having rights, and, they're using these political terms, these freedoms we are given, to an extreme. Because is it a right to expose children to this stuff? It's not a right. Listen, my family and I, we are both involved with the child care system, and we involve in that details. We study and all that. Anyway, do you know how much power the state has to intervene whenever the child is being abused? Anything that's happening to the child, the state has the right to say that parent is unstable. We gotta do what is best for the child and make sure we give them a proper home. And there's been cases where there's some stories you read, you can understand why the state had to come in there. Some parents are really not good parents, okay? And several reasons there could be several reasons why they are in a state that they are. It's no condemnation to any parents. What I'm simply saying is some of us don't know what we are doing. Sometimes the state has to come in. Sometimes something has to be done. There has to be intervention to protect the child because of our failure as parents to carry out our responsibility correctly. Should the state just sit back and let it happen? What will be the result? It will be serious physical and verbal abuse, and eventually it will have a funeral. Okay. So things had to be done in order to protect the child, no matter what. In the case of this story right there, some of these parents need to be, we need to ask ourselves a question. Are they even decent parents? If you think as a parent, it's okay to expose your children to something like that, I'm wondering everything else about you. But the second thing is, if a parent wants to expose their children to it, they still have the choice to do that. You just can't use the school as a venue through which you get that carried out. You just can't do that. It should not be done in this way because the school has to have a level of, how should I say this? Some decent morality, some barriers, some laws set up that protects the child from parents' decisions. What you do outside in your home and so on, that's something completely different. But what the school is doing, it cannot carry out. It must not do it. And this is the argument that she's making here. The parents can do whatever they want. They can go and purchase the book. They can go online and do it. But what she wants is that those parents to have the right to use the school as a venue, to have books exposed to children as a whole. LGBTQIA plus parents wants to read books like that to their children. That's their choice. Let God be their judge. But as far as the school is being used to push that forward in front of not just LGBTQIA plus children, other children as well, that's extreme. That is extreme. This is what she's pushing against. And Joy Reid is trying to confuse the matter here. It's not that confusing. It is not.
LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your right to say they can't?
Again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And
Joy,
each parent,
no.
Each parent has to decide what is appropriate.
You can't. She's not allowing her to answer whenever she starts talking about the contents that are in the books. Do you see what's going on here? Do you see what's happening here, guys? It's just that Joy Reid is being so dishonest in this interview. It's bad. It's bad on her look. I think she should just quit her job and go find something else to do. Because I'm wondering if this woman, does she have any kids? From what I heard, she has at least 3 kids, right? If she does have children, would she be okay with her children reading these books? Would you advocate? Would you allow your sons and your daughters to read this stuff? But you want it for our sons and our daughters. Do you hate us? Like, what is it? What is it about us that you hate so much? Because I don't think Joy Reid will ever expose her children to this book. I don't think so. She's being politically, she's just playing politics right now. She's acting she cares about LGBT people, but I don't think she cares. I don't think, and again, it's sad because LGBTQIA plus people, even though I have my disagreement, I have my biblical position, these are human beings. They have real issues and real struggles, and God loves them too. I think some of these people are utilizing their vulnerability, their confusion, some of the issues that these LGBTQIA plus people are dealing with. They are using that as a political game to manipulate conversation that will work to their benefit. It is not fair. It's not fair. Like, if you were to use me as a Christian to push a political agenda, I will cry out against you. Like, what in the world are you doing? You don't believe in my God. You don't care about my Jesus. You don't care about my Bible. But you want to act like you care about my Christianity and you want to put that into your politics? Please don't do that. Please don't do that. I will push back against it hard. And I think the LGBTQ people, they should push back against this. This is not a call. There's some people that are acting like they care for you. They are the ones that are abusing you. They are using your causes to manipulate conversations, and is creating more people to hate, dislike, disapprove the movement, because they're using these causes. You have to understand, these very supposed LGBTQ allies are the reason why LGBTQIA plus people will never be accepted by the majority. It will never happen, because they're not really helping the cause. They're pushing forth conversation that will divide more than anything. So even LGBTQIA, if you care, if you're gay, trans, and lesbian, whatever it is you choose to be, this is not a good look for you. This is bad.
For their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask it one more time.
Right.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story, why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means
Exactly. I love this. So why do children need to be exposed to this story? How relatable is this information to a child? How relatable? It's not that relatable to them. Very few children, now it happens. Don't get me wrong. It does happen. Whatever is in those books, because some of the stuff that they're talking about in some of these books, it's extreme. But if it did happen, do children need to read that? Do children need to know about the trauma you've experienced? And do they need to know the details? Because in some cases, they're talking about blood, how it happens. The father who walked in the room and did this to my, like, it's crazy, the stuff that's in the books. The children don't need to be exposed to it, though. We respect them, even though if it's true, they don't need to know that. Okay, it's too much for them. You're destroying their psyche.
means that they have either been raped by a family member.
And your proof of that is what?
You just said that
What's
if
your
a child
proof of
feels
that?
seen by this story.
What I'm saying,
Joy,
you're now making assumptions
no,
about it.
Joy, but if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on a
now
library
you're literally
shelf.
creating
We
a
need to
story
give-
behind a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida.
Okay.
I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you. This is called
Can
the
I see
opt.
it?
Yeah, please. I'm going to hand it to you.
Thank you so much.
It's called the opt-out form. So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue, then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African-American history, then they get their
want children.
Yeah, of course you gotta put that skin color in that conversation. You just can't do without that. You're painting this picture as if Liberty moms have an issue with African American history. Like, no, they don't. And that's not the nature of the conversation either.
To read books.
Why not just opt out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot?
First
have
of
their
all,
children
I
read?
think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level. And that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content, the dildos, the rape, the
I'm sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
Let's do a back room. Let's put a curtain up in the library
First
like
of all,
they used
hold
to
on.
do.
One moment.
Video
One moment.
stores. That is
I
a
have
public
seen
library.
tapes of
Does
what
that
Moms for
sound
Liberty does,
appropriate?
and you all go into school board meetings
Joy,
and you
this is
read
a
graphic stuff.
disingenuous conversation.
Joy, you are dishonest. You done lost this conversation. You lost this conversation from the very beginning. All right. Can I tell you guys what I think is going on here? This is it's not that difficult. Okay. Our nation has completely gone into what I will call a state of demoralization. Okay. It's gone there. And the nation is, as a result of just doing away from God, just pushing away, promoting atheism, promoting everything but Jesus, from schools, from library, from politics. And I'm in no way saying I'm trying to establish a Christian nation here. That's not the point. The point is you just can't do away with Christian values. Once you do away with Christian values, the devil comes in. That's what happens. That vacuum has to be filled with something else. And what I think is going on here, when you listen to the nature of this conversation and the dishonesty of Joy Reid, is pathetic. But nevertheless, what I think is going on here, we are looking at what theologians will refer to as the moral ethics, right? When it comes to moral ethics, is what is defined by morality? Because the question is a question of morality. It's a question of right and wrong, right? There is two ways you can look at it, right? There is what is known as the theontological, ethical view of looking at the world. It's really a question of worldview, right? So there is the biblical worldview and there is the secular worldview. Under the biblical worldview, under Christian, Judeo-Christian values, what we believe is that truth in itself and morality in itself is born from the heart of God, written in his law, and passed down to those who believe in him. This is what is known as objective morality. God is the one who is the author and the authority of morality. The reason this is significant is because when we're talking about morality without the author and the authority of the author, what that does, it leaves a vacuum wide open for anybody to create or just come up with their own supposed morality. And what you are hearing here from the discussion is Joy Reid, as well as Liberty Mom, part of the pushback you're hearing back and forth here is really a question of morality. It's a question of who decides good and evil? Who has the right to determine what is right and wrong? There was a really strange, not only say strange, I would say it's a diabolical movement. The devil brought it into the society. It's called postmodernism. Okay, when you study what this was about, postmodernism gave a new interpretation to everything that was biblical. That's the best way I can explain it. But with those new supposed definitions, what they've also done, they brought into this view, and he goes back into philosophers and so on, and I'm not going to get into that details, but they brought this view called relativism. Relativism is this view that teaches you truth is not absolute. Truth is not objective. It is subjective. It is based on my own interpretation, my own experience, my own view, my own feelings, and my own stuff. What Joy Reid was arguing here, she's arguing truth as a subjective idea instead of truth as an objective idea. And the more that she pushes, the more that that's what's behind all the trends and ideology, every stuff you hear, even some of the CRT and all that stuff. What's behind it is actually a philosophy, and the philosophy is actions have consequences, thoughts have consequences. So the way these people are thinking, they're not looking at life from the perspective of Judeo-Christian values. They're looking at life from the perspective that my view, my experience, my humanity is what determines what is good and evil. And this is why we are having these debates. This is why we are having the debates. These debates are happening because what you're hearing here is the worldview of a Christian woman and worldview of a political pundit, Joy Reid. I don't know if she believes or not, but at least she's arguing for the secular worldview. And you're hearing objective reality versus subjective reality. Here's the thing. If truth is not born from the heart of God, who Jesus, John chapter 14, verse 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The word of God is truth. John 17, verse 17. The spirit of truth, talking about John 16, verse 12. God is the author of truth. And if God is no longer the author of truth, therefore we then become the ones who determine what is good and evil. You have to understand what's happening here. The enemy has done this work in society for such a long time. He's managed to confuse society from understanding what truth is, who truth is, and how it is to be determined. And as a result of that, the nation today has come to a place where they don't acknowledge God. In the sense they don't acknowledge God, they don't believe in God. Then truth now is also under attack. And everything that is decent and truth and common sense to protect us and our children and our family, it's all being attacked. Hosea has a way that he says that. He said truth is cast into the streets and equity cannot enter. So what's happening is that there is a fight against the truth. But as long as we have the truth, and I love this because the scripture says there is nothing you can do against the truth but for the truth in the book of Corinthians. So as long as you stand on the side of truth, you're always going to win. But you're going to be faced with all these oppositions that's happening today. The opposition is real. But the truth that she's arguing for as far as protecting children and their minds and their psyche from sexual deviancy is something we can't just back down from. We can't just sit back and say, well, it is what it is. It's your choice. It's none of my business. But eventually this stuff will start knocking at your door. Eventually my own sons and daughters could be exposed to this stuff. Like, we can't play with this. Like, this is not a joke. This is how you lose a nation. This is how you lose a people. This is how you lose your children. And I think the enemy knows very well. I can't stop everybody in a nation to go and destroy. I can destroy the nations. But what the enemy has done, and I'm watching what he's doing. The Bible says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, has a warring line, walking about seeking whom may devour. Revelation 12, verse 12 says that he come down unto us having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. What's going on here? The enemy is now going after the children, because by destroying the children, he destroy the next generation. And he knows that. It's actually a diabolical plan that's happening here. And he knows one of the best way to destroy children is to mess with their sexuality. You mess with any children mess with sexuality, you destroy them from their minds to their spirit to their everything. Everything else will fall apart, because there is where the secret is, and Satan knows that. And if you ever listen to people who's in the occult, they will tell you the same thing. One of the greatest way you can bring sacrifices to Satan is to do some type of sexual act, but we're not going to get into that. But what's happening here, friends? We are watching our nation unraveled. We are watching a nation falling apart. We are watching a nation that is falling away from Jesus. Friends, this could be happening in the world. It doesn't happen. It doesn't have to happen in your home. It doesn't have to happen in our hearts. I don't know how we're going to stop this. All I'm simply saying, having the conversation, we have to push back against this thing. But I'm telling you, get into your Bible, read and pray, because this stuff, this is diabolical. You're dealing with some demonic stuff right now. Okay? That's all I wanted to say.